together in grammar school and high school, and I kind of went there. I was just there for the hour and then home. There wasn't like a mixing of friendships.
So you were like a commuter almost at
Almost like
college.
a commuter.
Yeah.
And then when we had our kids, Lou said they need to go to church. So I started at Christ the King Lutheran. And the kids went to Sunday school there, and that got confirmed.
Okay. Can you tell me about any friends that you remember from your neighborhood back then?
Okay. In some of them still live in town. Chris Olson, he has a business. His dad, Stanley, is still in town. Joan, Stanley's sister, is married to Julius Kish and lives in Junction, near the firehouse.
Okay.
I've been in contact with one of the other kids. She's now down in New Egypt. Well, two of them are. Marilyn Sieber Bosenberry and Audrey Silt. So, not a lot of communication, but
But you're still in touch with
yes,
some of the
and
old...
Bernice Mokel Beerschneider.
Okay.
So, still see them once in a while.
Some of the old gang.
Right, Fred Pietrafesta is still around. He just recently lost his wife. Warren Tannum. Yeah, there are still a few in the area. Now that you make me think about it.
More than you thought, huh?
Yes.
So, I know Route 1 is a big part of this area, but the questions that I wanted to ask were the roads paved? I know that some of them weren't, but what did Route 1 look like back then? And, for example, Route 1 and Georges Road, what did they look like back then?
Well, Route 1 had a grass island in the middle.
Okay, so
and
there's
it
a
was
median-
paved. Okay, and all roads led to New Brunswick because there were no major stores out here. You had to go into New Brunswick to basically do your shopping. And there was like one Chinese restaurant, and that was in New Brunswick by the railroad station. No Chinese restaurants out here. The first pizza parlor was Ricky's on 27.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's where the Musketeers, I think, is. And there was a Dairy Queen there. But other than that, we shopped, you know where Rodner Plumbing is?
Not
In
Sure.
Deans.
Okay.
Where you come to the light on George's Road?
Okay.
Okay, that was our little hub. There was Weber's TV.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Okay.
pictures of that. Yeah, the
But-
building's still there.
Yeah, but then what it was is there was a little part that Grandma Weber had one of those old-fashioned cases with penny candy in it, and you'd go in with a penny, but you come out with a little paper bag with about 5 cents worth. You know, it was cute. Then across from Weber's was Dean's Garage, which is the oldest, I believe, running business still in town. And then next to that is Rodner Plumbing. But originally, that was our grocery store,
Okay.
run by a family, Charlie Gumpus and his wife. And at first, it was like in the big living room of their house. And then he added on where it says Rodner Plumbing to make it a bigger grocery store. And you know, he had the butcher block, and you know how he kept his charge accounts going? He had a piece of cardboard, and your family name was on it. And if you didn't have the money to pay for it, he wrote down what you owed him.
So it was store credit.
Store credit. And he figured it all up on the paper bags. He was faster than a calculator. I watch some of these kids when they're trying to add things up like the bowling scores, and they're going 1, 2, 3, 4. But he just tabulated everything on the paper bags.
So everything was done, well, of course, on paper, but on
Mhm.
paper bags. Now, just out of curiosity, you mentioned the penny candies. Do you remember the names of any of the
Oh,
type
like
of
the
candies?
Mary Janes.
Mary Janes.
Yes, and little Tootsie Rolls.
And the squirrel nut zippers, was that era, or was that another type?
No, that's not something I remember. You know, and then the candy that, you know, you have the paper and the little dots are on there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember those.
Mm-hmm.
And when you pick them off, you end up getting you eat paper sometimes. 'Cause they would come.
And then they used to have the little bottles filled with a fluid.
Oh, yeah,
The little
they look like
plastic-
soda bottles.
Little like wax bottles.
Wax bottles.
You just break the top off and it was gone in a second.
Yeah, they made it to the 70s. I remember those, too.
Yeah.
Now, the next section is a community and school. Tell me about the schools you attended and how you got there.
Walked.
Well,
Dean's school went from first grade to eighth grade. We didn't have kindergarten yet. And that's why, in a sense, I got out of school before Lou did. He's 3 months older than I am, and he went to Englishtown. But I went to South Brunswick. Went as a 5-year-old right into first grade.
okay.
So I got out before he did. Okay, Dean's school had 8 grades. Dayton went to 8th grade. Okay, I believe there were only 4 teachers in the building, and one was the acting principal in each one.
So he was teacher and principal.
Yes, yes.
Double duty.
I loved my first grade teacher, and because her name was Agnes Ann Toth, and I was Agnes Ann Hone.
Okay.
So I fell in love with her. I loved school so much that if I knew that I wasn't feeling well, Mom would come over and go like this and like this to see if I had a fever.
Right.
Before she was going to do it, I went over to the refrigerator and I cooled off. And then she'd come and I'd have a cool cheek. So I went to school.
I think some kids do the opposite. You know, they
Go by the radiator and get hot.
put the thermometer near the light bulb, right?
And then my very first day teaching in substituting in Dean's, when I went to substituting, was in my first grade class.
Oh
And
yeah, so you actually subbed it.
I've subbed in Dean's, yeah. I've
So that
subbed in
must have
all of
been
the elementary
that must have
schools.
been an experience, you know, being there as an
Okay.
adult and a teacher.
There was something that turned me into a very quiet student, which you would not know now the way I'm talking. There, you know, the old-fashioned little inverted bottle, and it had a little dabber on the bottom, and you would pump it up, and then the liquid would come, the soap.
Yeah.
You might
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay, well, that was in the bathroom. And if you talked, now this would never go today, okay? She had a community brush, and she put some of the soap on that, and you had to brush your teeth with that liquid soap. You know what? That turned you into a very quiet kid if you had a brain in your head.
Maybe there's something to that, right?
Well, you know, they used to threaten kids are going to wash your mouth out with soap. Had to come from someplace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I think there might have been 8. I don't think there were 18. Somewhere maybe between 13 and 15 kids in my graduating class from Dean's.
So okay, so it was if there was 18, so it was small then.
Oh yeah.
Very small. Okay.
You know, and each teacher had 2 grades.
So from you went to Dean's, but where did you graduate from?
Dean's.
Oh, it was all
They were-
okay. It was all in one
Don't
school.
forget, when I was a little kid, there was only 4,000 plus people in town. Now you've got 44,000 plus.
Yeah,
So
exponential growth.
it was small. And then we didn't have enough for a high school because you had Dean's, Dayton, Kingston. I guess there was a school in Monmouth Junction. So you didn't have a lot of grammar schools to support a high school. So my generation, you either went to Jamesburg, then I got picked up by bus.
Mhm.
Some went to Princeton, and some went to New Brunswick. How
Okay.
the decision was made, I don't know.
It might not have been geographical or where your neighborhood was.
You might have had a choice. I don't recall.
Okay, I've seen the Jamesburg High School. I mean, it's still there.
Oh, I'm so glad they didn't tear it down.
Yeah, it's a nice school, nice looking school.
Lou and I even went in there one day to see it, and I love the marble stairs connecting the 2 floors.
Okay.
They're all grooved. You know, where the kids
where?
wore them out. Yeah.
Hey, Lou pointed it out one time when we went by. He
Yeah.
pointed it out to school. So we talked about some of your fond memories of school. But where did your parents go for shopping and groceries and clothes?
Oh, okay. Close. When in Dean's, you can still see they're overgrown, the stairs that go up on either side of the overpass. They're overgrown, but they were the stairs that led to the 2 railroad stations.
Okay.
Okay. In there was Werner's Fuel and Feed, and they sold to the farmers the mash, the corn, or whatever you needed for your livestock. Well, my mom would go there with all those chickens and turkeys, and she would pick out 2 bags where the print matched, because some of them were burlap, But they also had nice cotton bags with the mash in it. And if she got two, she could make a dress for me, or a skirt, or a blouse, whatever it was. So that was initially where my clothing came from. My mom made it out of mash bags.
And that's where you got the bags. And of course, then you had many families had sewing machines in the house, so
Right.
you could do the work, the making of clothes.
Right. So that worked for me. And then she even made my graduation dress. The only requirement was that it be white. And I can remember we went to New Brunswick to pick out an eyelet. It was very pretty, and Mom made my dress. But everything was in New Brunswick, really. New Brunswick was a lovely town. You had some nice department stores, and they weren't overly priced.
Do you remember any of the names of the big department stores?
P.J. Young's,
Okay.
Wolfson's was a men's store. Nathan's was like a place where you bought a lot of household things. There were 4 5 and 10s. You bought a lot in those because they carried everything and anything. And there was Woolworth's, Newberry's, Fishman's, and Grant's along all of George Street. Okay, and then there were 5 theaters in town. The State, the Opera House, where there had been a killing, I don't know if it was ever solved. The Rivoli, the Albany, that played all the westerns my daddy took me to. So I'm a western nut. We have to have the channel program on this TV that allows us channel 160 from Comcast, because now Lou is indoctrinated westerns all the time. When we don't like what's on TV, we switch to 160. And then there was a place called the Strand, and that was called the Spit and Whistle because they played all the naughty movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it was fun.
So New Brunswick was the place. So you didn't go to Trenton, I mean, because that's a little it's farther away, and you got everything you needed in New Brunswick.
New Brunswick.
So you didn't visit Trenton. But what about New York or Philadelphia? Are they just too far flung, or?
We would never shop there.
Because you've already got what you needed from there. Okay.
The only thing we did with New York was to go through it to get to Long Island to visit relatives.
Oh,
in
for
Forest
relatives.
Hills. Yeah.
Okay.
No, my mom, once she got out of New York, she didn't want to go back.
Right. Now, when did your family have a car? Or when did they get a car?
We had a car right away when we were out here back in the 40s.
Because you
And-
needed one, because there was no way to get around.
No
The trolley line
transportation.
didn't go out there.
I don't think so. It would be Shanks Mayor just walking wherever you want to go. You know?
Right.
But, and I mean, in the old days, you go on Black Horse Lane now, in 5 seconds, you probably have 20 cars flying by. And in the old days, it was just the people that lived there were on the road. You know, it's now a shortcut to avoid the Dean's Lane light, the Henderson Road light, and they cut across on Black Horse to make a right to go north on 1. So it's got tremendous amount of traffic. They're really crazy over there. But Mom had this one little car. It had a rumble seat. And it started to snow one day, and they dismissed school. And there was no Mom. So Miss Pittner gave me her scarf, and Miss Smith gave me her gloves, and I started trudging home. So it was like, walk toward it, turn around, walk toward it. When I got home, there was Mom stuck in a ditch. She didn't navigate the snow too well that day.
So now that car, your family car, had a rumble seat in it. But when your first car, do you remember your first car and about what time that
50
was?
Plymouth.
50 Plymouth.
And Lou had one too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I used then when I was going to work.
And was it automatic, or did you have to use a?
Well, I
Stick
learned
shift.
to stick shift drive on the tractor when I was 10. So this was probably I don't think my dad went to automatic. I think he had stick shift.
So, but you were used to it.
I was used to it, yeah.
Okay. Now the railroads play a big part in this town. Did the railroad play any special part? Do you have any memories of the railroad in your life here?
No, just Daddy using it to go into New York because he used that for many years
Just to get
to go to work. And
at
then Lou
that station.
used it.
Yeah.
By the time we got married in 58, he then had a job at the VA in Newark. So there was one train then that stopped at 7 in the morning, and it came back at 6 at night. So, and we had the one car. So if I needed the car, I'd get all three kids up, toss them in the car, go to Dean's for the 7 o'clock train, and then go back to get them at 6.
So even back then, I mean, people, of course, this is I'd say prime real estate, but because you can get to New York City and commute up there. So even back then, the train was important to this community because it got you to the city, just like today, right?
Yes, like when Mom and Dad bought the place, they paid $2,200 for it. I think their taxes may have been $20 a year. Joke. When my mom had a good business mind, she had an opportunity to buy the property across from her where the board office is, and even like there's a little chemical factory, and she had an opportunity to buy